The humid air of the Pacific Islands clung to every surface, sticky and suffocating, yet Desmond Doss felt a calm he could hardly explain. Around him, soldiers sharpened bayonets, tested rifles, and whispered anxiously about the horrors awaiting them. But Doss, a devout Seventh-day Adventist, had made a choice that set him apart. He would serve his country, but never touch a gun. The idea drew scorn, ridicule, and outright disbelief. "How can you fight without a weapon?" they asked. "You'll get killed," they warned. Yet, Desmond's resolve did not waver. His faith, forged in the simple but profound lessons of his childhood in Lynchburg, Virginia, became his armor. He remembered the nights in his small cabin, his mother's voice soft yet unwavering as she preached the value of life and the sanctity of all human beings. "God will guide you," she said, "even when others cannot understand." That guidance now felt palpable. As the army trained him in the arts of survival, navigation, and medicine, Doss faced mockery and doubt at every turn. Drill sergeants sneered, and fellow recruits challenged his convictions. But in the eyes of Desmond Doss, courage wasn't defined by the weapon you carried, it was defined by the choices you made when fear tried to conquer you. Basic training was brutal, a test of endurance and conformity. He marched, lifted, dug, and ran alongside men whose skepticism was as sharp as the bayonets they carried. Yet while others honed their skills with rifles, Doss focused on first aid, bandages, and triage techniques. He learned to move quickly under fire, to stabilize broken limbs, and to perform under the pressure of chaos. Every skill was a testament to his commitment. He would save lives, not take them. And in the crucible of training, he earned grudging respect. His courage was unconventional, but unmistakable. When orders came to deploy to the Pacific, the reality of combat loomed closer than ever. The islands were a hellscape of sweltering heat, dense jungles, and enemy fortifications. Soldiers whispered about the campaigns ahead, Tarawa, Saipan, and eventually, Okinawa. Each was rumored to be bloodier than the last. Yet Desmond walked with quiet determination, bandages and medical kits in hand, prepared to face a reality that would challenge every principle he had ever held. Life in the Pacific was unforgiving. The jungles teemed with disease, insects, and unseen hazards. Patrols could be ambushed at any moment, and every day, the threat of artillery, gunfire, and death loomed large. Yet in this chaos, Doss found purpose. Every wounded comrade was a mission, every scream a call to action. The men began to see that his refusal to carry a gun did not make him weak, it made him singularly brave. While others aimed to destroy, he aimed to preserve. The whispers of doubt slowly turned into murmurs of admiration. When a soldier twisted his ankle or a medic was overwhelmed by the sheer number of casualties, Doss moved with precision, calmness, and unwavering focus. His hands worked tirelessly, treating wounds, calming terrified men, and moving through danger zones with a blend of instinct and faith. Stories began to circulate, the boy who refused a rifle but ran through bullets to save his friends. In the small and brutal world of war, legends were born not only through acts of destruction but through acts of mercy and courage. As the battalion prepared for the Okinawa campaign, the tension reached a fever pitch. The island, fortified and strategic, was a fortress of Japanese resistance. Every step forward would be met with gunfire, grenades, and entrenched soldiers prepared to fight to the death. Desmond Doss studied maps, anticipated movements, and rehearsed triage procedures. In his mind, each casualty he would encounter was already a life he intended to save. Fear existed, yes, but it did not dominate him. The knowledge that his actions could mean the difference between life and death for dozens of men steeled his resolve. He also faced moments of profound loneliness. Standing among armed soldiers, he often felt isolated by principle. His refusal to bear a weapon was a moral line few could understand, and yet he did not waver. Courage, he understood, was not about conformity. It was about conviction. and as planes rumbled overhead and artillery shells exploded in the distance, Doss reminded himself of one simple truth: in the chaos of war, one life saved was worth more than 1,000 lives destroyed. Training and preparation were only the first tests. The real crucible was about to begin. As the landing craft approached Okinawa, Desmond felt the familiar tension, the mix of fear, anticipation, and responsibility. Soldiers tightened straps, adjusted helmets, and whispered final prayers. Doss, quietly, placed a hand over his heart and offered a silent prayer, seeking strength not to destroy, but to heal. The first roar of artillery hit the water before the craft even reached shore. Explosions threw water and sand into the air, and the men braced themselves. This was war in its rawest form. The beach erupted into chaos. Men fell, bullets tore through the air, and screams echoed across the waves. Yet, in the midst of the storm, Desmond moved forward. Unarmed, carrying only medical supplies and courage, he navigated craters and debris, dragging wounded soldiers out of fire zones. Every step was a defiance of fear, a statement of purpose. While others fired, he healed. While others hid, he ran. And in that crucible, the seeds of legend were planted, the story of the medic who refused a gun but saved dozens of lives against impossible odds. By the end of the first day, whispers became stories. Word spread of a soldier who braved bullets and grenades, pulling comrades to safety with unwavering determination. Commanders and fellow soldiers alike began to see that heroism did not always come from aggression, it could come from faith, courage, and the will to preserve life in a world dominated by death. Desmond Doss had not just arrived on Okinawa, he had arrived as a symbol, proof that conviction and compassion could shine even in the darkest hours of war. The battle intensifies, saving lives under fire. The dawn of April 1, 1945, broke over Okinawa with a quiet that felt almost unnatural. For the soldiers of the 77th Infantry Division, the calm was a fleeting illusion. As the landing craft hit the shore, the roar of Japanese artillery shattered the morning, sending plumes of sand and smoke skyward. The air smelled of salt, gunpowder, and fear. Amidst the chaos, Desmond Doss gripped his medical bag, unarmed, and stepped onto the beach. Every step forward was a statement of faith and defiance. He would save lives where others could only aim to kill. The first wave of attacks was brutal. Soldiers were cut down by machine gun fire before reaching the relative safety of the dunes. Desmond's training kicked in instantly. He moved from one wounded soldier to the next, assessing injuries, applying bandages, and dragging men away from the line of fire. Bullets whizzed past him, and shells exploded nearby, yet he advanced relentlessly. Each soldier he saved seemed to add weight to his resolve. Failure was not an option, and retreat was not in his vocabulary. He remembered the look in Private Daniel's eyes as he pulled him out of a shell crater, blood streaming from a deep wound in his leg. The young man clutched Doss's arm, panic etched on his face. "I'm going to die," he gasped. Desmond knelt beside him, applying a tourniquet, whispering reassurances, and praying silently. "You're not dying today," he said firmly. In that moment, the fear of death became irrelevant, only purpose mattered. Saving lives, no matter the cost, was the only truth that guided him. Hours stretched into an unbroken rhythm of chaos and compassion. Every time a soldier fell, Desmond was there, moving methodically through the battlefield, unarmed yet unstoppable. He had no weapon, only courage and skill, and yet the respect he earned was undeniable. Men began following his lead, some shielding him, others assisting, but all watching in awe as one man turned the tide of despair into glimmers of hope. Stories of his bravery started spreading through the ranks: the medic who ran into open fire to save a friend, the man who refused to carry a gun but never failed to protect life. The terrain of Okinawa was treacherous. Jagged rocks, muddy craters, and tangled vegetation slowed every step, and enemy snipers added constant danger. Yet Desmond adapted. He used the land to his advantage, crawling when necessary, using cover creatively, and maintaining a steady pace despite exhaustion. Each rescue was a calculated risk, yet his instinct was flawless. One by one, he evacuated wounded soldiers, prioritizing the most critically injured, never hesitating even when artillery shells landed meters away. By mid-afternoon, the scale of the battle became clear. Casualties mounted, and medics were stretched beyond capacity. Desmond's small figure moved tirelessly across the battlefield, carrying soldiers on his back, improvising stretchers from debris, and sometimes dragging two men at once to relative safety. Every act of heroism was unnoticed by the enemy but witnessed by those who mattered most, the men whose lives he saved. The battalion began to whisper of his extraordinary courage, of a soldier whose faith transformed him into a beacon amid carnage. Yet, the danger was unrelenting. Japanese forces launched counterattacks, sometimes from hidden positions mere meters away. Explosions rocked the ground, shrapnel tore through nearby sand, and men screamed in pain and fear. Desmond did not falter. He approached a shell crater where 4 soldiers lay, one of them pinned by debris. Ignoring bullets cutting through the air, he lifted the weight, freeing the trapped soldier, applied first aid, and carried him to safety. The men around him stared in disbelief, unarmed, outnumbered, yet unstoppable. As night fell, the battlefield transformed. Smoke and fire illuminated the chaos, creating eerie silhouettes of soldiers, weapons, and wounded men. Exhaustion threatened to break him, but Desmond pressed on. He had begun the day with a single goal: to save lives, and he would not stop until every soldier within reach was treated. He moved from one pocket of resistance to another, improvising solutions, using courage as his only shield. Every man he rescued was a victory against despair, and with each, his legend grew. The stories from that day would later fill battalion tents with whispers of disbelief and admiration. How could one man, unarmed and vulnerable, face artillery, bullets, and sheer chaos without succumbing to fear? How could he carry multiple soldiers to safety, tend to wounds, and maintain unwavering focus amidst carnage? Desmond Doss had turned the battlefield into a place where courage was measured not in firepower but in acts of mercy. By the third day, his efforts had become more than just extraordinary, they were miraculous. Soldiers who had been written off by medics returned to the ranks thanks to his skill and bravery. Men who had lost hope found strength in his presence. Commanders took note, initially skeptical but increasingly impressed by the tangible results of his daring. Desmond's philosophy, faith in God, faith in humanity, and faith in his mission, had transformed him into a force capable of reshaping the battlefield. Amid the carnage, moments of quiet reflection reminded him of why he was there. Each life saved was a testament to his mother's teachings, to the belief that the sanctity of life outweighed the instinct to kill. Every soldier he carried from the front lines became a symbol of possibility, that even in war's darkest hour, courage, conviction, and compassion could prevail. And as dawn approached once more, Desmond Doss prepared to continue, undeterred, unarmed, and unwavering, ready to confront whatever horrors the battlefield still held. The Medal of Honor, a soldier's relentless courage. The morning sun barely pierced the haze over Okinawa, yet the battlefield was already alive with the staccato rhythm of artillery and gunfire. For Desmond Doss, another day had begun, but unlike most soldiers, he carried neither rifle nor bayonet, only a pack filled with bandages, medical kits, and unwavering determination. Stories of his exploits had already traveled through the ranks, the unarmed medic who refused to kill yet saved countless lives. But no tale could truly capture the intensity of what lay ahead. The terrain ahead was a nightmare of jagged cliffs and steep escarpments, positions heavily defended by Japanese snipers. The 77th Infantry Division faced fierce resistance, and every step forward meant walking through open fire. Amid this chaos, Doss's role became even more critical. Soldiers fell, some screaming, some silently pleading for help. And every time, Desmond was there, moving with a calm precision that defied logic. One of the most iconic moments came near a rocky ridge where enemy fire pinned down dozens of men. Commanders feared that no one could reach the wounded without certain death. Doss volunteered, of course, unarmed and determined. Crawling over rocks and debris, bullets tearing past, he reached the first soldier, a young man suffering from a leg wound so severe that the bone protruded through his uniform. Ignoring the searing pain from minor shrapnel grazing his shoulder, Desmond applied a makeshift tourniquet and dragged the man to a safer position. But his courage did not stop there. Over the course of several hours, Doss rescued more than 75 men, carrying some one by one, others in pairs on improvised stretchers. Each rescue required ingenuity, using rope to secure a stretcher, balancing on precarious cliffs, and even lowering soldiers down steep inclines into safety. At times, he would pause only to pray, whispering quietly for guidance, drawing strength from a faith that had always anchored him. Fellow soldiers watched in awe. Some tried to assist, but the terrain was treacherous, and every movement was met with gunfire. Yet Doss pressed forward, guided not by fear but by a singular purpose: no soldier left behind. His actions redefined what heroism meant on the battlefield. While others relied on weapons and strategy, he relied on skill, courage, and conviction. And as word spread, the morale of the men soared. Even in the most dire circumstances, they felt a renewed will to survive because of one man's relentless bravery. Amid these daring rescues, Desmond faced moments of profound vulnerability. On one occasion, a shell exploded dangerously close, knocking him off his feet and sending shrapnel into the ground near him. Pain radiated through his body, yet he refused to retreat. Ignoring his injuries, he continued to drag wounded men to safety, each movement a testament to extraordinary resilience. By the end of the day, exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, but the sight of saved lives spurred him onward. The Japanese forces, relentless and cunning, launched counterattacks that sought to trap or eliminate any stragglers. Yet Doss's focus never wavered. One of the most daring rescues involved descending a cliff with ropes tied to improvised anchors, hauling a soldier who could barely move. The maneuver was as dangerous as it was heroic. A single misstep could have meant death for both. But Doss executed it flawlessly, showcasing a combination of bravery, quick thinking, and physical endurance that seemed almost superhuman. As night fell, the battlefield glowed with the eerie light of fires, gunfire, and flares. The soldiers, exhausted and terrified, finally felt a glimmer of hope. Desmond Doss had become a living legend, a symbol of courage that transcended conventional warfare. Commanders noted his extraordinary actions, submitting recommendations for recognition that few could question. Stories of his unarmed heroism spread far beyond Okinawa, inspiring not just soldiers but a nation that struggled to comprehend such unyielding valor. Eventually, news reached Doss that he would be awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military distinction in the United States. For him, it was not a personal victory. The award symbolized every life he saved, every tear of relief he witnessed, and every soldier who survived because of faith, courage, and determination. Standing proudly yet humbly, Doss accepted the medal, knowing that his mission had always been about service, not recognition. But the Medal of Honor only told part of the story. What it could not capture were the nights of fear, the relentless pain, and the constant question of whether he would survive another day. What it could not show was the quiet prayers whispered over each soldier he treated, the creative improvisations that saved lives in impossible conditions, or the inner strength required to walk through the line of fire without a weapon. These were the moments that truly defined Desmond Doss. Beyond the battlefield, Doss's story became a beacon of hope and moral clarity. In a war often defined by destruction, he demonstrated that heroism could take many forms. His courage was not about inflicting harm but about preserving life, not about dominating enemies but about uplifting comrades. In a world consumed by violence, he reminded everyone that faith and conviction could be as powerful as any weapon. The legacy of Desmond Doss extends far beyond the islands of Okinawa. His story challenged traditional notions of bravery, inspiring countless soldiers, civilians, and future generations to reconsider what it truly means to be courageous. By staying true to his principles, he not only saved lives but also proved that unwavering moral courage could shine even in the darkest of human conflicts. As the smoke cleared and the war eventually moved toward its conclusion, the image of the unarmed medic carrying soldiers from the battlefield became etched in history. Desmond Doss had achieved something extraordinary. He had redefined valor, shown the power of faith in action, and left an indelible mark on the story of World War II. His Medal of Honor was not just a symbol, it was a testament to the enduring strength of one man's commitment to life and humanity. Life after the war, legacy of a hero. The guns of Okinawa had fallen silent, but the echoes of the battlefield lingered in Desmond Doss's mind. The war was over for him, yet the journey of courage, faith, and resilience was far from complete. Returning home to Virginia, he stepped into a world that seemed peaceful but was grappling with the aftershocks of global conflict. For soldiers like him, the battlefield didn't end at the shore, it traveled with them, etched into every step, every thought, every heartbeat. Adjusting to civilian life was a challenge. Though Doss had saved over 75 men in one of the bloodiest campaigns of World War II, society had yet to fully understand the kind of hero he represented. He had no desire for fame or accolades, his commitment had always been to serve without violence, to protect life in the face of unimaginable danger. Yet, the recognition he received, the Medal of Honor, letters of commendation, and the quiet respect of comrades brought him face to face with a legacy that would inspire generations. In the months following the war, Doss devoted himself to family, community, and the simple pursuits that gave him peace. He married Dorothy Schutt, a woman who understood his unwavering principles and shared his faith. Their life together was modest but rich in values, grounded in the same courage and conviction that had carried him across battlefields. While others rebuilt homes and careers, Doss rebuilt himself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, carrying with him the lessons learned under fire. Education became another battlefield of a different kind. Though he had deferred formal opportunities to serve in the army, Doss now pursued studies in nursing and medical care, extending his life-saving skills beyond the military. Hospitals became his new front lines, where compassion and expertise replaced gunfire and artillery. Patients who had never heard of Okinawa received the same meticulous care and unwavering commitment that had saved soldiers during the war. In every patient he tended, Doss's wartime experiences manifested not as trauma but as profound understanding of the fragility and value of life. His story also reached classrooms, public forums, and military academies. Desmond Doss became more than a soldier, he became a living lesson in courage without aggression. Young recruits studied his methods, learning that heroism was not measured solely by firepower or rank, but by integrity, perseverance, and the willingness to act selflessly. Civilians read about him and found inspiration to confront challenges in their own lives, whether personal, professional, or societal. His faith-driven actions offered a model of moral courage applicable far beyond any battlefield. Doss's influence even extended to films, books, and documentaries. One particularly famous portrayal immortalized his life in cinematic form, showing audiences the sheer determination of a man who refused to carry a weapon yet faced death repeatedly. The world witnessed the reality of a hero whose strength lay not in force but in fidelity to his values, to his God, and to the human life entrusted to his care. Children, veterans, and historians alike studied his example, often marveling that such unwavering courage could emerge from humility and conviction rather than violence. Yet, the quiet moments were equally important to Doss. Evening walks, prayer, and time spent with family allowed him to process the horrors he had witnessed and the triumphs he had achieved. Every rescued soldier, every life preserved under his hands, became part of a tapestry of purpose that guided his remaining years. He often reflected that true heroism was not a medal or public recognition, but the silent victories that went unnoticed by the world yet transformed lives profoundly. Doss's legacy also became a bridge between generations. Veterans shared his story with their children, educators incorporated his actions into lessons about ethics, courage, and service. His life demonstrated that heroism could take many forms, sometimes quiet, sometimes dramatic, always principled. In a world still grappling with conflict, his narrative reminded humanity that one person's commitment to doing what is right could ripple outward, influencing countless others in ways unimaginable. In the later years, Desmond Doss received letters from people he never met, some expressing gratitude for inspiration, others recounting personal struggles in which his example provided guidance. Every note reaffirmed that the impact of courage is not confined to the battlefield. By staying true to his principles in the most extreme circumstances, he had created a model for resilience and moral clarity that transcended time, culture, and even war itself. When he finally passed away in 2006, the world remembered not just a soldier but a symbol of unwavering integrity. Ceremonies, tributes, and memorials honored a man whose life illustrated that faith, perseverance, and compassion could coexist with courage, shaping a narrative that defied the traditional limits of heroism. In every recounting of World War II, his name serves as a reminder that one person's devotion to life, ethics, and service can echo far beyond the noise of conflict. Today, the legacy of Desmond Doss continues to inspire not only in military circles but across society. His life story encourages people to confront fear, embrace compassion, and act with courage even when circumstances demand the impossible. In classrooms, hospitals, and communities around the world, his example endures. The unarmed medic who ran into fire to save others remains a beacon for humanity, a testament to the power of conviction, and a living proof that heroism is as much about saving lives as it is about making the world a better place.